Welcome to Life on Purpose. This podcast is about creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. It's for the dreamers and the healers and the high achievers, the soul-led humans who know deep down they are here for more. More alignment and more freedom and more truth and more choice. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Because whether you realize it or not, you are already creating your life. The question is, are you creating it on purpose or are you creating it by default? Life on purpose isn't just about achieving goals or checking boxes. It's about becoming the fullest, truest version of yourself. The you who naturally lives the life you dream about. You aren't here to survive your life. I wish more of us really knew that, because sometimes it feels like survival equals success. When you survive successfully, you feel like you did it, but you're here to create on purpose, by design. That's, in my opinion, and our opinion, that's your dharma. That's everybody's dharma. That's everybody's life work and life purpose, is to realize that you are the one creating your life. And this podcast is all about making sure you learn how to create every single aspect of your life on purpose. Most people live reactively. They're stuck in cycles they didn't even consciously choose. They believe that life is happening to them. And I remember that feeling. I think we can all look back on that feeling and think, it feels like circumstances are out of our control. And in some ways they are, but the thing that's always in your control is how you perceive the circumstance. Like if you were to just install this one question that you could ask of every single one of your circumstances, every single one of your challenges, detriments, failures. If you ask, why is this happening for me? And train yourself to really look at the perspective of everything is happening to help you. Everything is happening to support you in becoming the version of yourself who is the most powerful creator you could possibly be. The version of yourself that has confidence and has, riz and is able to lean into challenges instead of avoiding challenges. And, who always keeps top of mind that they are the ones who get to choose the meaning they give the stories of their life. And so just that one simple question, if you just ask every circumstance you ever come across, why is this happening for me? What could I possibly benefit from this circumstance? If you do that, you will train your brain into viewing life through the lens of love, through the lens of support and creativity. And that is creating your life on purpose, because you created that mindset on purpose so that you're no longer bothered by things that come up and you're not going, I'm at the mercy of my circumstances. You're not doing that. You're going, hey, another thing happened for me. What am I going to gain from this? And that's energizing, and that's clarifying, and that's giving your life purpose and passion and direction and, and love and joy. And literally only good things can come from that question. You are the one creating your life always, right? Living on purpose means choosing the thoughts you think, choosing the energy you hold, the habits you practice, and the way you move through the world. It's moving from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. It's saying, I choose the kind of partner I want to be. So letting emotional reactions fade, letting them dissipate before you react. It's saying, I choose how I show up at work, even if you hate your job. We've all had jobs that we didn't like, that weren't our dream job. But I promise you, if you ask yourself, well, what am I getting out of this job? What am I getting out of this circumstance? Why is this happening for me? And you just start showing up to work, looking for all the good, looking for what it gives you and how it adds to your life. You will not walk around that job hating it. You just won't. You can't. It's impossible at that point. Now, that's not giving up on your dreams or saying, this is it for me. I'm just going to stay here and let, success be my survival. Or in other words, survival be my success. It means I'm choosing that when I show up at work, I'm not feeling defeated or deflated. I'm feeling ignited. I'm feeling sparked. I'm feeling a fire in my belly. I'm feeling creative. I'm feeling powerful. And I'm choosing that because of how I decide to think about it and the lens I choose to look through. Right? It's like saying, I choose how I speak to myself when no one else is around. This is maybe the most important aspect of creating your life on purpose, is creating your inner dialogue on purpose. I remember there was a time I had 3 kids at the time. I have 5 now, but I had 3 at the time. And my number 2, she's a girl. She was like 3 years old at the time. And I was driving them to preschool. And I remember thinking, I said something to her, and I said it out of frustration, I said it out of frustration, and I said it out of because we were running late or something. I can't even remember the details because it was like, a long time ago. It was a really long time ago. But the thing that I learned from that moment of weakness, driving the kids to school, feeling late and frustrated and overwhelmed, was that the words that I choose to speak to her in my moments of weakness are going to become her inner dialogue. And I just sat there with that epiphany going, okay, so then what is that? First of all, I need to be very careful then about how I choose to speak to my children and everyone in my life. And what does that say about me? That means that a lot of my inner dialogue came from other people, authority figures in their moments of weakness too. And so, I didn't choose them on purpose. They were given to me. And so how I choose to speak to myself when no one else is around means I am choosing to train my inner dialogue into one that is supportive and loving and helpful and compassionate. And I choose that on purpose. Otherwise, if you're living by default, you're allowing yourself to think thoughts that were never yours and don't support you in becoming the version of yourself that you want to be. So every single thing is creating your life on purpose. It's who you want to be. It's the story you want to tell. It's the way you want to perceive a circumstance. It's how you speak to yourself when no one else is around. It's how you show up as a partner, as a parent, as a colleague, all of that. You get to choose, and you get to design the exact kind of person you want to be on purpose. Like even your perception, the meaning you give to what happens is a choice, right? Life on purpose is realizing everything is a choice. The meaning, the lens, the story, the things that you choose to repeat, the things that you choose to never repeat, all of that. It's part of you designing your life and living a life that you came here to live, right? It's not about, life on purpose isn't about just about what you do. It's about who you are becoming through every choice you make, right? Life on purpose is I'm designing my persona. I get to do that. And I get to make all of the choices that are aligned with that version of myself. And you're doing that anyway, by default. Every time you choose presence over autopilot or love over fear, authenticity over approval, you are shaping the next evolution of yourself. You're saying, this is who I am on purpose because this is who I'm choosing to be. You're sculpting yourself one intentional decision at a time, right? Like an example would be choosing how you respond to your partner. Meaning if you're feeling frustrated or triggered, like we get, right, in our partnerships, right? Instead of reacting from that place, pause, take a big breath, and decide how would love respond instead. And then do that. And that's choosing how you respond to your partner and not reacting to your partner. And that's a big part of life on purpose. Another example would be choosing how you start your mornings. I feel like this is maybe one of the most important aspects of designing your life, designing your brain. It's designing your habits, right? It's like you can wake up and anchor into gratitude, if that works for you, or movement, which I'm a huge fan of. I feel like that's the first thing you should do is move your body and breathe instead of scrolling. And that simple little choice that you are making that choice on purpose to feel a certain way before you get into your day, that's life on purpose. That's you becoming the version of yourself that is the person who takes care of themselves, the person who decides what's more important and then acts in that way so that you can then create the kind of day you want to have before life decides for you, like that's the problem with waking up and not doing something on purpose. That's your choice. If you just wake up and fall into your same habits that you do every day, then you are going to have the same day that you have every day. Right? So you have to do something different. You have to feel a different way in order to create a different day. That rhymes. Right? So it's another example would be like choosing to pursue your dream even when it's uncomfortable. Right? Like that's a big one. And saying yes to the risk, the growth, the calling inside you, that is saying yes to creating your life on purpose. And saying no to anything that doesn't support you in living your dreams, right? Another last example, it would be like choosing who you are becoming. Most important one, making daily micro decisions that align with your highest vision, not by accident, but by intention. I intend to feel like the version of me who's already living my dreams. I'm in my dream health. I'm in my dream wealth. I'm in my dream home. I'm in my dream career. I'm in my dream relationships. What does that feel like? And then what can I do in this moment that aligns with feeling that way? Right? Those are the micro decisions that help you create who you're becoming on purpose. Life on purpose isn't just about the big visible moves. It's about those micro moments, the ones that no one else sees. I can't stress this enough. What you do for you determines who you are becoming. Because if you make decisions based on anything else, someone, something, some want, some desire. And I know that might sound confusing, right? I should act for my wants and for my desires, but not if they are external to you. Anytime you do anything for some external reason, that is creating by default. That is allowing, and what I mean by that is that's allowing your external world to determine what you do and think and feel. And that's not creating on purpose. That is still creating on accident because what you're creating isn't aligned with who you are becoming. Do you know what I mean by that? So even if you think, oh, well, I want this thing, so therefore I'm going to act in this way, even that can be a default manifestation measure, right? And the real key to life on purpose is going, this is what I want. I want this thing. And so when I have this thing, what kind of person would I be? Who do I need to be in order to have that thing? How will that version of me feel? And then I will act in alignment with feeling that way. That's life on purpose. Those are the micro moments that add up to the big visible moments. But it's not just about those big visible moments. It's about who you're becoming on the way to those big visible moments. It's like how you brush your teeth, presence or distraction. Think about that. I mean, most of us are just autopiloting when we brush our teeth, right? What would it feel like if you decided to be present while you were brushing your teeth? I know it's such a silly example. Would you brush them differently though? I mean, it's a real question. What would be different? Would you brush them differently? What would you think about? What would you notice? What would you feel? Right? Or like, how do you speak to yourself when you drop a glass? Who cares what's in it? How do you speak to yourself when you drop a glass? Or if you miss a deadline? How do you speak to yourself? I hear people say all the time, I know that I'm kidding. Like if you miss a deadline or something happens, you make a mistake and you're like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Right? Every cell in your body receives that directive, receives that transmission and goes, okay, that's who we are. That's my identity. Right? And so every cell in your body doesn't know you're kidding when you say that. That is your inner dialogue slipping out and now you're aware of it. It's an opportunity for you to become aware of it. So then ask yourself, the version of me who's living the life I want to live, all my dreams, everything came true. How does that version of me talk to me when they make a mistake? And then start talking to yourself like that on purpose, right? How do you prepare your coffee? With love? Like looking at all of the different aspects that go into making your coffee or your tea and you're appreciating every moment, or with, a hurried sense of urgency. Like, hurry, 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 make the coffee, not paying attention to anything. I'm not even enjoying it. I'm just like living by default. These are ways that can help you see where in your life you are living by default or you're on autopilot most of the time. Right? Like, how do you walk through the ordinary with intention rather than autopilot? Because life on purpose isn't something you arrive at. It's something you practice moment by moment. Who do I want to be in this moment? So then what thoughts should I think? What emotions should I build? And what actions are in alignment with that? And from the very beginning, Matt and I both knew we wanted something different. We weren't content to just live a life on autopilot, right? Or, just nothing default, doing what was expected, choosing safety over soul. This is going to sound so ridiculous, but I remember a million years ago, having these conversations with Matt. And whenever we would talk about it or, what are we doing with our life? What do we want to do? We were young at the time. And I remember this song would always pop into my head. I can't believe I'm even telling this story because it's so ridiculous. But this song used to pop into my head every time we would have these talks about creating on purpose. And it was the song, "You Were Meant to Live for So Much More. Have You Lost Yourself?" And it would just like play just that one sentence just over and over in my brain, and it was like I couldn't get away from this song. And I just knew that was the soul that was calling us over safety. And we really did believe that life was meant to feel vibrant and meaningful and free, and that wellness, wasn't just something we loved, it was something we lived, right? And so even more than that, we knew we didn't want to spend our lives disappearing for 10 hours a day, right? Only seeing each other at night and on the weekends. We wanted to spend our days together, and we wanted to raise our family together. We wanted to work for ourselves, doing what we loved, surrounded by everything we cared about: health, wellness, art, good food, community, our family, yoga, meditation, Pilates, bar, massage therapy, raw juice, coffee, tea. That's what we wanted our days to be full of, And we wanted our lives to be full of what we valued and not just something that we squeezed in around the edges of a normal job, right? And so at the time, it was interesting because Matt's career in architecture was taking off. I mean, he was climbing ladders and going places and doing really well. And he loved it. He's so creative and he's so good at architectural design. And, and actually he's really amazing, like in the corporate world, even though he sort of hated it. I hate to say that, but he didn't love it. It didn't fill him up. He wasn't fulfilled in that life. And he was doing a great job, though, of controlling his mindset and making sure that he was always, moment by moment, grateful and appreciative. And he was recognizing all of the wonderful things that career was giving to him, while at the same time he knew making great money and heading up major projects and doing everything he was supposed to do wasn't what he was meant to do, So he loved it. It was wonderful. And he got a lot out of it. And we all got a lot out of his career, It was an amazing time in his life. But it wasn't what he was meant to do. It felt more like what he was supposed to do, right? And so at the time, I was volunteering, doing oncology bodywork therapy. And, and interestingly enough, I had just been offered a dream job at the hospital where I trained, a hospital which was only a few blocks from our home. And on paper, it made perfect sense. But in my heart, I knew I didn't want to be away from my family. I didn't want to live by default and do something just because I was supposed to, or because it was safe or smart. I wanted to do something that I was meant to do. Instead of feeling proud and secure in this idea of what we were supposed to do, the truth is we mostly felt disillusioned by it. We knew that wasn't the kind of certainty or security or stability that we wanted. We didn't want stability at the cost of our souls and our time, We wanted to be certain about living our dreams, no matter how much we were challenged. And in fact, I remember, and I know Matt does too, feeling like, well, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth. Maybe he didn't feel this way. But I remember feeling like I kind of wanted it to be challenging. I wanted us to have to walk, across the coals together and slay dragons together and, climb mountains together, just because I wanted to have that experience. I wanted that to be part of our story. I wanted to feel stable in our resilience and in our grit and in our purpose. And what we wanted together more than anything else was to build something. Us, we wanted to build something together, a family business, a family legacy, a lifestyle that's grounded in creating our health, wealth, career, home, relationships, and dreams on purpose. We didn't just want to live a life we were given. We wanted to create the lives we would live. And that's how the dream of opening a studio was born. We took a leap of faith, knowing it didn't make sense on paper, but trusting that something bigger was guiding us. We opened our first studio just months before the Great Recession hit, which, it's like, I always say when things like that happen, I appreciate the accountability, or be careful what you wish for. I want to slay dragons and climb mountains with you. How about we mortgage our whole entire future on this family business idea right before the Great Recession. How about that? Is that hard enough? Is that mountain high enough? But that was our reality. We opened the studio months before the Great Recession hit. It was hard, it was humbling, it was beautiful at the same time. And somehow, even in the hardest moments, we knew we were exactly where we were meant to be. It was different. It was hard. There was a lot less of the security that we were used to in terms of, we were knowing what to expect and finances and things like that. But, and then, when we were in our other lines of work, we had that sense of stability and security, but we weren't stable and secure in knowing that we were living what we were meant to live. And now, even though we didn't have those stabilities anymore, we were stable and secure in knowing we were exactly where we were meant to be. And I'm telling you, that is a palpable difference. And stability is a lie. And it really is an illusion. I think the goal and the dharma for us and for most people needs to be that you are secure in your ability to create, in your knowing that you have the ability to create. Because like I said, and like Matt and I say all the time, you are creating every second of every day, whether you realize it or not. It's time for everyone to just recognize and learn and know and understand how they're creating and what they're creating from and who they're, being in this life that they're living, so that everyone can sort of step into themselves in a way where this only security that they need is in their own abilities. And the only stability that everyone needs is in their own awareness and confidence in how powerful a creator they really are. Somehow, even in the hardest moments, we knew this is exactly where we were meant to be. And over the next 15 years, we lived the dream we had once only imagined. And it was an incredible feeling. We built a vibrant community. We opened 3 locations. We taught thousands of classes. We met some of the most extraordinary people we've ever known. And through it all, we kept choosing. We kept choosing on purpose, courage over comfort, authenticity over appearances, choosing purpose over popularity, choosing each other, and choosing our dream again and again. It wasn't easy. There were late nights, so many late nights, right? There was financial scares, big ones, setbacks we didn't see coming, but there was so much joy at the same time, so much purpose, so much life. Every single day, we lived inside, I always get choked up at this part. We lived inside a dream that we built with our own 2 hands on purpose. And that meant more than any struggle or hardship could ever take away. I'll always, forever be grateful for the opportunity to create my life on purpose. Then came, the next threshold. After 15 years, we could feel it. There was a stirring, there was a restlessness, a whisper, just like before, You were meant to live for so much more. Have you lost yourself? Except for this time, the whisper said, it's time to evolve. What is next? This has been an incredible 15 years, but what is next? We were tired in a way we had never been before. And then the pandemic hit. It was like, okay, another big dragon, another huge, unpredictable setback. The pandemic forced everything to a standstill. Overnight, the wellness industry changed completely, dramatically. Studios like ours, which were built on community and gathering and shared breath and togetherness and closeness, faced a completely new reality. one that wasn't aligned with how we had always served. Around that same time, the building we had poured so much love, love and blood and sweat and tears into was sold to a group of aggressive developers who began, quickly reshaping the neighborhood and pushing us out almost overnight. It felt a lot like the universe was just took over and was like, well, here you go. Here's your next step. This is where you're meant to be now. It became clear that the external landscape, both in our industry and in our local community, had shifted in ways we couldn't and didn't want to fight against. The universe was guiding us. And that's the story we chose on purpose, guidance and gratitude. And in that space of truth, we realized it was time to choose again. Not how do we hold on, but what are we ready to create next? And for the first time in 15 years, we had the opportunity to dream beyond the walls we had built. Getting choked up again and reimagine everything again. Closing the studio was one of the hardest decisions we've ever made because it wasn't just a business. It was a chapter of our hearts, a chapter of our lives. It was a chapter of our family's story. And letting it go cracked us open. But it also set us free because life on purpose teaches you every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. After the grief, after the letting go, we realized we weren't losing the dream. We were expanding it. The dream wasn't ending, it was evolving, and so were we. We realized we could reach more people, serve in deeper ways, and create even greater freedom by taking our work online. And for the first time in a long time, we weren't just maintaining something we had built. We were reimagining our future, and that felt incredible. Looking back now, every so-called setback wasn't just shaping our business, it was shaping us. Every hard decision, every reinvention, every leap of faith was carving us into the people we needed to become in order to hold the life we had always been living, to be the container of that which we create. Because the life you're dreaming of is not found in default. It's found on purpose. So that's what life on purpose really means. It's not a catchy slogan. It's a way of being. It's a way of becoming, a way of taking radical ownership of your life and creating something beautiful, something true on purpose. I want to ask you, where in your life are you still living by default? What's one area where you're ready to take your power back and live it on purpose? Next time, we're talking about what it really means to be fearless, because living on purpose will stretch you, and you can't grow if fear is in the driver's seat. We're going to show you how to move with fear, not against it, because being fearless isn't about not feeling fear. It's about who you become in spite of it. See you there.